exciting LinkedIn Live with my special guest star, Jenny Maxwell. We were just in the middle of our conversation. It's kind of good to get off the runway before we go on the air. And now we're kind of all, well directed. And today we're talking about situation, context, perspective, and really how to fill in the dots between where you are and where you want to go. So Jenny, it's great to have you again. Why don't you, I know it's holiday season and that's a good time for reflection and also for exhaustion. So why don't you share a little bit of your perspective?
Well, like you said, by the way, thanks for having me on again, Don. I love speaking with you. I think what's been going on for me this week is that I've been feeling particularly overloaded, and I started to notice those feelings of burnout emerge. And when that happens, what I like, and I'm in the habit of doing, is I allow myself to slow down and figure out like what's actually going on here. Where am I not showing up in my life? Not just where I am showing up. I know where I am showing up because I'm the owner of my own business, and I'm driven, and I love serving people, and I want to add value on LinkedIn. But what I realized is LinkedIn is not my job. My job, like I said to you, I have two jobs. I'm a mother, first of all, and I'm a coach. So that's where the balance needed to be restored a little bit. Was I started thinking about like what's really missing here. And the truth of the matter was it was self-care. I was pouring all of my energy into my business and into people that are engaging with me online and answering DMs. And I had to kind of create that pattern interrupter, that record scratch moment, and ask myself, like, how much of myself am I willing to give? And how little of myself do I have left over for the people in my house? Because they're like, they're my priority. If I'm showing up burnt out at the office of LinkedIn, then I'm sure, I'm going to show up burnt out to my family. And then they're getting a lesser version of me, which I don't want to give them. So that pattern interrupter has been really helpful, because then I get to ask myself that question, well, what would I like instead? If I'm feeling stressed out and burnt out, what would I like instead? And the answer for me is I'd like to experience calm. I want some time in my day to daydream, which sounds bizarre to people. I had somebody ask me recently, well, how do you daydream? And I thought, my gosh, that's so sad, because we're so connected all the time, like with our phones. This is where technology is a bit of a curse. You have a laptop, you have a phone, you have the TV, you're available. So slowing down and being intentional about getting back and exercising, getting out for a walk with the dogs, and not having my phone and not listening to music, and reminding myself why I'm here in the first place. I want to show up and add value wherever I go, not just in business, but to my family and my friends and people I care about. So that is I'm revisiting my habit of bumping myself to the top of the priority list and reminding myself to have a little bit of fun. So you want to hear something really funny? Last night, Don?
For sure.
My friend invited me to go to a painting class, which to me is like, I almost broke out in a rash, because I never did well at school with art. But I thought, she's asked me to go. It'll be time away from LinkedIn, and I might have some fun. And there's a very good reason why I did not do art as a subject in school. It's because I am dreadful at art. But I haven't laughed that much, and I can't remember when, because the teacher had to come and rescue me. It was this, like, I was just painting a Christmas tree, but it was just the most fun. And we laughed for about 2 hours solid. We just kept laughing hysterically. And then I woke up this morning and I was still laughing, when my family looked at my creation and said, what actually is it? It
No,
was
I've been where you have just gone, and it's nice when you can have fun with your weakness
Oh.
because of how you look at it
Mm-hmm.
instead of how you compare it. And sometimes there's something to uniqueness or distinction that's so separate than what you're supposed to do. But at the end of it, you're pretty happy with what you created. So, to your excellent point on being overwhelmed and out of balance, a lot of it really comes down to being in control
Mm-hmm.
and having a schedule that includes everything you need in it to make it a balanced day, right? So you schedule daydream time, and you schedule exercise time, and then you schedule extra time, and what I find is time available gets filled by opportunities. Instead of saying, well, I only gave it an hour, what am I going to do to cut out what's extra now? Because it's like doing a TV show for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They could go an hour and 30 minutes or an hour and 18, but at an hour, the show ends. And if you really protect and guard your time, then it becomes, well, if I'm going to do LinkedIn for an hour, then this is what I'm going to do for that hour.
Agreed. And so sometimes when I hear that word control, I don't know, it's like a trigger word for me. Control. I prefer the word choice, because no matter what we're doing, we're choosing it. We're making a decision. We're choosing to stay and watch 2 shows instead of 1. We're choosing to eat food that doesn't make us feel good. We're choosing not to go and move our bodies. We're making a choice. It might not be a choice that's in alignment with the person you want to become, but it is a choice. So how about choosing something with intention? And to your amazing point, you get on LinkedIn, you set your time, you are intentional about what you're trying to achieve, and then it's on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not like just staying in that rabbit hole of being online like you live there. You have to remind yourself that there's a world outside to be experienced. Let's make the most of it and do so with intention and with the right choices.
Yeah, and learn from timeout situations. So if LinkedIn timed you out after an hour, right, you didn't have a choice, you would squeeze or get ready to be within that hour.
That's so true.
Right? So how come someone else or something else has to tell you when your time's up before you tell yourself? Right? You go to a buffet, the buffet never comes up to you, and they shouldn't say you're on your 5th plate, but you should be able to say, no matter how much I eat, my money is still gone. So I'm not going to get that back. And what is it yet? So, but that's what people do, is they don't have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't know where they're going, they usually spend more time where they're at, doing whatever they're doing. And if you have enough going on, then everything becomes more precious, right? Because if you say, well, I'm going to spend an hour with the dog today, well, that's all the hour you're going to get. You probably spend more time thinking about filling that hour than the time you would spend anyways, but you're conscious of all your choices getting enough time. And here's what's cool. If you make LinkedIn and your LinkedIn opportunity a client, you would never go over whatever time you committed or under.
So wise.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just employ yourself for that hour. And if you need to do more, then the next day schedule it differently. Right. But then you have, like you had mentioned, a choice. And if you choose not to respect your plan and just go wherever it takes you, well, that's a learning experience. Here's the point. Who's judging who? Who knows what everybody thinks about what you do and how you do it in all parts of your life, right? So you're figuring the situation, then you're figuring the thought process or mindset of the people involved in that situation. And then you're looking to make it as good as you can for everybody that you can. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff, and it's an unrealistic expectation.
And it happens every day.
Right. But the other thing is you're letting people know, oh, that person's always available. But do you want to be always available? And to go back to your point about, if LinkedIn gave you a time slot, you only had this length of time. Okay, so they're creating the boundary for you. But the truth is nobody wants to be told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my experience of coaching. Like, I don't tell anybody what to do. We uncover what is getting in the way of this person having what they want. And then we build out the action steps and build out the pattern interrupters and everything else based on this person's needs and desires in that moment and what works for them. Because the truth is, if I was to tell somebody what to do and it didn't work, then they're going to blame me for it not working. And it would be a perfect reason for them not to make greater choices going forward. So it's much more empowering to set your own boundaries and be intentional about the choices that you make.
Well, and you don't want to build dependency. And what you really want them to achieve is everything they're sharing with you now can be shared with the people who can help them with their situation, right? So you become more of an amplifier, right? Or a promoter or projector for whatever their situation is. And that's why I think LinkedIn Live is so important, is those are the people who need to be on these shows to really be telling their story in their own words, in their own time, in their own way, which will get far more impact from someone viewing it than a post. Getting back to the timeout strategy for an hour by LinkedIn, it would also restrict people or minimize people's ability just to hang out and look at cool pictures and videos, right?
Yeah.
The can opener that opened 2 million cans in 3 seconds, that takes 45 seconds of your time. And you're saying, I invested 3% of my time into watching this video. Who's responsible for that? Right. And that's really the key, is taking responsibility for your time investment. The other beautiful thing is, if you want to really invest time in your family, and I think that's vital, is how do you show up then when you're investing that time?
Oh,
right?
For sure.
Or is it like, hey, I'm here, let's do something, let's have fun, let's be positive. And a lot of people say, well, I spent a lot of time, and what'd you do? Well, I argued about this and we talked about this. And at the end of it, you're thinking you should have been daydreaming, right? People would have liked you better.
You're daydream for 5 minutes before you go and ask all of these questions that your kids don't want you to ask them. Did you do this chore? Did you finish your homework? Did you clean up after dinner? And they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you all day. And now you're complaining to me because you're frustrated, because you're overwhelmed.
Well, plus you're carrying something from before into now, right?
Yeah.
Because how does someone know about anybody's homework unless they had some experience with it? Or how clean their room is unless they had daily exposure to it? But the thing is are you bringing people up or bringing people down, and just giving people knowledge and information by itself is putting somebody in a controlled situation, right? Because now it's already not there yet, right? School's not there yet. Whatever it is, not there yet, versus what is there. What is somebody improving? What are they most interested in that you could care less about? But you're talking
Yes.
about stuff that you care about and you think they should care about, and you care for too many people, and they're very capable if left to their own devices. And that's how you learn, is by participating. No one believes anybody until sometimes you just got to touch the stove, and find out it really is. They were right, but
Right.
I had to see if it was true, So, LinkedIn's the same way. Is I've been doing it every day for 3 years because it's just part of I know when I do, what I do. And the beauty of it is I leave a lot of stuff I used to love to do totally behind, because now I found something better and I don't want to do both, right? I
Okay.
don't want to be on Broadway and be at the same time, I'd rather just do LinkedIn Live. And here's what I'm learning. It doesn't take that many wonderful people like you and a bunch of other really quality people I met through LinkedIn Live because they're open to the medium. The people on LinkedIn Live aren't, I wouldn't say smarter or better than the people who are doing great things on posting and they're getting tremendous response. But you know what? They're already there, over there. It's getting
Right.
over here and being here and getting over it here. And by lending the medium LinkedIn Live to the connector, right? Because this is a great place. If you had a client say, hey, why don't you just get on a LinkedIn Live with me? I think you got an empowering story that everybody should hear. And if nothing else, it'll help them, even if it doesn't directly help you. But you'll find that if people are sincere, there's always someone there to help because they can, and that's what they do. So to include someone who has value, and everybody in their life had a situation where an opportunity was so close and it never got there, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, there's something to giving that person a helping hand who really deserves it, and you can do it by just saying, I want to introduce this person, or I want to share this person's story, and here's the person. And now they don't have to talk or work through anybody, right? They can go directly, to the LinkedIn universe. And if one or two people see them and do something, it's a game changer. And they can do everything they were doing prior to this. Oh, we've got one comment. That's great. I forgot to say, but chat's open. Feel free to ask any questions or interact. Yeah, so I think this is vital, Jenny, what we're talking about, in that if you're going to do good at something, you need to enjoy it, have fun with it, look forward to it, not blame it, not saying, it was a time suck that took me out of it. Because you know what it is? It's taking the past into the future.
Right. Yeah, for sure. You bring it with you. But I want to go back to your point about having people on lives, and encouraging them to do lives. Not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody's ready to share their story because it's so painful to them that they couldn't imagine sharing it with 800 million people on LinkedIn. And that's okay. Some people are on LinkedIn because this is their network. This is where they learn, and this is where they figure out who they'd like to work with for, personal development or anything else, but to come and share their story. Well, I know for sure I wasn't ready to do it 2 years ago. There's not a chance if somebody had said to me, you'll do LinkedIn Lives and you'll share your lesser strengths to the world. I'd be like, no, I won't. But now I'm a different person because I've done the inner game work. But not everybody's at that phase in their journey. And that's okay too. It's okay. You don't have to do it if it's something that you want to do and you feel like it might propel you forward in your life. then what's to stop you giving it a try? But it goes back to choice, and it goes back to, you know, living life on your own terms and not being apologetic about that.
Well, and I think that's where collaboration is so key. And when you can't do it on your own, can you do it with somebody's support? That's the next question. And when it comes to sharing, people should only share what they're comfortable at the time sharing. So if someone goes on to LinkedIn Live, they may just want to share how they create a post, right? Something that's more practical, not too personal and not too revealing, but something that they can do. And here's the thing. Once you get on a LinkedIn Live, like we just proved, right? We were talking like we are prior to going live. Then we started talking going live, and it was an easy transition. And what you want people to do is if you can't share, you can't really play on LinkedIn, because at a certain point, you got to come clean, right? Someone's going to ask you, what's your situation? What do you want people to know? What do you want people to do for you? And that's going to be key in how do you trust people? How do you get your story out? And I think by however you can verbalize it, and even if it's a post, so tell your story in a post if it seems less painful than being out on the stage. But at the same time, if you knew that one LinkedIn Live could turn everything around based on the right person seeing you, would that be worth the risk or the fear that prevents you from taking that opportunity? And I think that's something, that's why out of 870 million people, probably 1 or 2% of the people do anything, and then probably 1 or 2% of those people do things like LinkedIn Live. So, you know, the other thing is, I always tell people, don't take criticism personally from people who are criticizing what you're doing that they're not. Right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know, if you love diving, you know, into a pool, and someone tells you what bad form you have, and they won't do it, they can't do it, why would you let that enter your mindset? Right?
Again, that comes back to personality. That comes back to, you know, maybe limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. If you're looking for validation outwardly, then what that's really saying to you is that you don't have a strong belief system in your own abilities. If one person is going to put you off trying something because they criticize, perhaps they're criticizing because they feel they can help you, but perhaps you haven't asked for any help. Perhaps you're just out there doing your thing. You either want to dive or you don't want to dive. It doesn't really matter. And this might surprise you. It certainly surprised me. But I always thought that LinkedIn was just about business, that people only got on LinkedIn for business. And what I'm learning is there are lots of people using LinkedIn as a platform to learn, but have fun as well. And they're not interested in selling anything, and they're not interested in buying anything. They're using LinkedIn as Facebook used to be used for, or Instagram used to be used for, to connect with other people and to have a bit of fun. And that's okay too. And those people may not really post very regularly, but they will comment and engage and want to get on a DM with you, but they're not interested in either sharing their story. They want to hear yours, but they're not interested in sharing their story, and they're not interested in buying or selling. And that's okay. So those people would never get on a LinkedIn Live, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and you know, everything and everybody has their time and place, you know, in their comfort zone, and everything like that should be respected. You know, I think what it is the more we talk and the more I do LinkedIn Lives, it's really, LinkedIn is a place to bring your questions, bring your curiosity, right? Because the key word you said when you were just talking is perhaps. Well, anything that's perhaps is kind of up in the air, or it wouldn't be perhaps. So I look at it like find people who are willing to talk to people about things that are important to them and are looking for an answer, with the assumption that once they see you as a great resource,
Hmm.
you will start to gain top of mind awareness for other issues, right? And your value will be determined by them, that will be determined by the result. And it could
Right.
be performance, it could be just mindset. Just someone waking up and saying, just because of your way of looking at things, I adopted it.
Hmm.
And now what used to be frustrating is fascinating. What used to be scary is an adventure. So,
Hmm.
it's like, fearing something like what's under the bed at night or something, if you're a young kid and you think, well, once you turn the light on, there was nothing. But before then, it was your imagination. LinkedIn is no different than anything else in people's lives,
Hmm.
you know, and it usually, is a challenge that makes you stronger or makes you weaker. But whatever it is, you take it with you wherever you go. And you choose what you pick up and take with you and what you leave behind. So again, it's to your point, I think what's so essential is the daydreaming.
Yeah.
You should have an equal balance of planning, doing, and reviewing. And
Hmm.
most people are so busy doing, they don't think about planning because they got so much to do, and they don't think about reflecting because they're just doing it, right? And to
Right.
think about it just slows them down. And sometimes you got to take the deck of cards and bring them all together and reshuffle them and deal out new hands.
Yeah.
And most
Ask yourself
people,
what worked in the past.
yeah, and
If you,
ask yourself what you have fun with the most.
yeah.
And that's what you should focus on, whether it's your family, whether it's LinkedIn. And when you say, what did you have the most fun with? The next answer is, who was it?
Mm.
Right? No one had a lot of fun in creator mode or doing something technical or creating some sort of lead magnet and doing all that, technical cold stuff. It works, but it takes away from who you are. I think down home in someone's living room is a much better place to be than in some conference room or on a podium. And why not? Everybody rather be comfortable. So hopefully these LinkedIn lives really explore a different facet of LinkedIn success,
Right.
because I believe it all starts and ends with the person. Eventually they end up coming home to themselves every night.
That's
You
true.
know, whoever they went with, they're back to them again, you know,
Yes.
and having to
Yes.
figure things out the next day. And I think everybody finds themselves a little bit off course without knowing it because they're so busy doing it, that when you have people with you that can kind of support and give you quality feedback,
Yeah.
right? And quality resolution to an issue. And most of it is take some time off. Why don't you have
Oh
some
my
fun?
gosh.
What are you going to miss, right? And that's
Yeah.
why when I do a post every day for 3 years, every post is one of 1,000 now. That's
Hmm.
less than 1/10 of 1% of everything I post. So why would I get so worked up about what is it? Or even worse, someone responded to it and it was negative or it was
Mm.
challenging. And all of a sudden, you just gave that fun away to someone you didn't even know and didn't even care about, and obviously didn't care about you. So I think what we're talking about would have helped me. It does help me, along the way, because in most cases, what it says is you're doing more than most people, you're doing better than most people, and you should treat yourself better than you do.
Yeah, that's
Right?
very fair. It's really very fair. And creating that balance. I mean, I know what worked for me a couple of years ago, and this sounds probably so simple, was not having to go to the grocery store 4 and 5 times a week. Actually sitting with my family and saying, you know, I'm just one person here. Can you give me some ideas of what we might eat together? And then they felt like they had a say. So I would, of course, then decide what I wanted to cook. They thought they were having a choice, but I would ask for 2 or 3 things, and then I would pick what I wanted to do ultimately. But they felt like they were a part of it. And then guess what? I would write a list. I would go to the store. I might only have to go twice because I was planning ahead. I knew what we're going to eat. And this, I know this sounds so basic, but this was a game changer for me because I don't enjoy going grocery shopping. I don't enjoy the process of it. So to only have to do it 2 times in the week, beautiful. And then I knew there's no stress. I know exactly what I'm going to make today, and so does everybody else. And they've had a say in it, so I'm not going to get the turned up nose or the eye roll because it's something that I've handed over that they didn't want. So it was like a win-win for everybody, you know? So applying that thinking to planning in any area of your life will help you. It will just help you. So I've started investigating what it is that I want and what might be missing for myself this week. And it's definitely involved downtime, daydreaming time, more exercise, and having more fun, as my painting experience demonstrated beautifully.
Well, it just shows you it's not what you do, it's what you bring to what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go there to have fun, you don't really care about how it looks, right?
No.
The painting, because it's just an activity. You know, if you went and shot some baskets, you wouldn't think about it the next day. It's just something you do and, you know, you enjoy. And I think that's the key, is maybe overshoot. Take better care in addition to taking better care of yourself. You know, luxuriate, you know, find yourself like, boy, this is great. And there's so many times that once you get in the moment, it gets so much easier. You know, once you look around you and you see the trees or you see the sky or you hear the birds, you know, it's a whole different world than if you're racing through it, you know, and don't want to be distracted by it.
Yeah, you miss your life.
Well, it takes somebody also who's doing it like you to be in company with you, right? To be able to say, here's what I'm doing, and it worked out great, and I had a wonderful time, and no one missed me. You know, sometimes you think you're so important, and you're really not.
No,
you know,
I know.
You think,
like you don't post for one day, you think people are going to be like, oh no, is she okay? No, they don't. They're not going to come looking because your posts from the previous few days are still available to them, or the previous few months.
Yeah, you find that out, and it might take some time, because I remember early on, my mother lived in Florida half of the year. So me and my wife and the kids would every year go either Christmas vacation or Easter vacation. And in the beginning, they would go for like 10 days and I would go in for 4, you know, because I was afraid I'd miss something or work wouldn't live without me. And then later on, you find out people were so much happier the longer you were away.
Oh my gosh.
And things ran even better because now, you know, and so everybody needs a break from everybody at a certain point, and you find out that the world will go around with or without you. And it's nice to know you're not as important as you thought you were.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off.
Yeah. You could say, well, you know, I didn't know you cared so little. I thought you cared so much. Now it makes it easier, right? I have a lower bar, you know, and I won't, you know, so, and plus what I learned too, what comes around goes around, right? How supportive you are will get you support around you, right? When you give people room, they want to give you room. So it's really who wants to start and how do you want to start, right? And if you start with what can I help you with, or what's going on that I can, I got some time now. People appreciate it versus where you at, what are you doing, why not, and all this stuff. And it's like, hey, life was busy for them. So I know we always kind of go over, but not today. So anyway, Jenny, why don't we say some final words? It was great having you on again. I think these really get to the point and really are rich in a sense that it may be able to, allow someone to break through a plateau or a fear, or it might be the day someone says, okay, now I'm going to do it. And I think that's a wonderful day in whatever you're thinking about. If you just decide, I'm going to do it, and you're going to find out that it was easier than you thought in most cases. And you give yourself credit for just trying. And I think that's so important is, it's the trying that gets you to the winning, and enjoyment of learning as you're going, trying to understand things from a, let's say, more puzzle standpoint than a personal standpoint, and reach out to people. There's a lot of good people when you find them that'll be a great resource, and you'll be able to help somebody else the way you're going to be helped. So anyways, that was my 2 cents. Jenny, you want to just say?
I want to share that whoever is listening today, you are worthy of whatever you want to be experiencing in your life. I invite you to bump yourself to the top of the priority list and show yourself some appreciation for showing up. And also appreciate the people who are around you waiting for you to bring your fun vibe. And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody have a happy, safe Thanksgiving. Use it as a time of reflection and spending quality time with your families. And we'll be back and with another exciting LinkedIn Live. So thank you again. Feel free to share, and we'll talk again. Bye for now.